In this video, I'm going to explain how a terminal window and a git bash process allow you to manually run programs on your computer, whether you're on a Mac, a Windows machine, or even a Linux machine, and how you can use manual control of your computer to create files, get listings of directory contents, remove files, rename files, print out the names of files, print out the contents of files, and basically do anything that might be needed in order to manage and control your computer. So I'm assuming in this class that everyone has either a Mac OS X machine or a Windows machine. If you happen to be running a Linux machine, then the instructions here for a Mac OS X machine should apply directly and without change. So there are two cases then to consider, OS X and Windows. If you're on a Windows, or rather if you're on an OS X Mac machine, a terminal window and bash shell program are natively installed. To run them, just go to your launch pad down at the bottom of your screen typically, hit the launch pad button. In the search box at the top of the screen, type in the search phrase terminal. Your OS X machine should find the terminal program and present you an icon that you can then click on to launch the terminal window. If you're using a Windows machine, then a terminal window and bash process are not natively installed, so you'll need to download and install a program to provide you with a terminal window and git bash process. Use search on the internet to search for git bash or git for Windows. Go to the download site for git for Windows. It should be at gitforwindows.org. Click on the git bash app icon. Click rather on the download icon to download, and then go ahead and install that software. And then when you want to run your terminal window, go to the Windows search icon down at the left of your screen, type in git bash, and click on the git bash icon to launch the terminal program on Microsoft Windows. In either case, whether you're on OS X or on a Mac, go ahead and type in the ls command. The ls command and hit enter. The ls command, when run, asks your machine to print out in your terminal window a list of the files in the terminal window and shells, the git bash shells, current working directory. So this is a way to get a list of files on your machine. So here's what you should see on a Windows machine when you launch your terminal window, and on an OS X machine it will look very similar. This is your terminal window, and behind this window is the program called git bash. Git bash is running, accepting inputs typed into this window and displaying its outputs as text in this window. The first line that you see here indicates my name on your machine. This will reflect your username, at the name of your machine. My machine name is Colossus. Here on a Windows machine, you'll see the name of the terminal program that's running. It's actually MingGW64. You can just ignore that. And the tilde here is a shorthand for the current directory to which this terminal window and its bash shell are associated. On the next line is a $, and that's a prompt at which you can type input followed by an enter in order to run programs manually on your Windows machine. Again, on an OS X machine, it will look very similar. There will be some differences in the details, but overall, it's essentially the same program. So here's an overview of the rest of this talk. I'm going to give you a kind of an introduction to how the terminal works, the shell, processes, and the file system. I'm only going to talk about the file system briefly here, but in the next couple of videos, we'll spend much more time exploring the concept of the file system. And in particular, we'll see it's another instantiation of the concept of an inductively defined data type, namely a tree. Not a binary tree in this case, in which every node has exactly 2 children, but rather a more general tree in which every node can have 0 or more children. Okay. The video that follows the one after this will give you an introduction to a lot of practical commands that you'll use routinely throughout the rest of your career in computing and software development to manipulate programs at the command line. So here is a graphical representation of what's going on your computer. So you have a keyboard and a display. You send input into a shell process that's running within your terminal window. That shell process then, well, so here for example, we might send the ls command into the shell process by typing ls on the keyboard and hitting enter. The shell process then goes to your file system and looks for a file called ls. And that file is the file that contains the program that you run to get a list of files in your file system. Okay? Once the shell process finds the ls program on your machine, often by looking in a series of different directories on your machine called the search path, if and when it finds a file called ls, it runs it by spawning a separate process, which I've denoted here at the bottom of the screen as the ls process. So the program is now running that's responsible for going out to your file system and finding the list of files in the current directory and outputting them onto your display. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You type a command using the keyboard, tell the shell to run a program. It goes to the file system to try to find a file with that name that implements that program. It spawns a separate process to run that program, and that program now can accept input from your keyboard and send output to your display. Okay, so the result of issuing the ls command, again, is the shell launches, well, it finds the ls program, launches it, the ls program goes out and reads your file system to find a list of files and sends the list of files to the output terminal window in your computer. And that's basically how the terminal works to run programs, or the shell program really works to run programs on your behalf. Okay, so that's it. On to the next video, please.